This is also for class 12. I'm only dealing with this basic things, that is coherent sources. You have an incoherent sources. What is coherent sources? That means the phase difference between the displacement produced by the two waves. Phase difference between the displacement produced by the two waves is constant with respect to time. Phase difference produced phase difference. This is the phase difference between the displacement. Phase difference be, phase difference between the displacement. It is the phase difference between displacement displacement produced by the two waves remains constant with respect to with respect to time. That means the phase constantly does not change. It does not change. It does not change with time. With time. It does not change with time. So remember that in your textbook, either it is double slit experiment or a single slit to show interference. Single slit is for diffraction to show interference, or in double slit experiment, we require two coherent sources. This interference pattern will be observed only if there are two coherent sources. Remember this very important point. If the two sources are incoherent sources, then we won't get the pattern, that is bright dark. This pattern will not be available. Only because of the coherent sources, the interference pattern, that is bright dark, is available. So I am dealing with the only the basic problem, that is just it is given in your book, but I want to tell you that these things you must remember. So now the point here is that how to create coherent sources. In double slit, uh, if they are coherent sources, then we will get intensity 4I naught or 0. That is, we will, if there are two coherent sources, then only, if there are two coherent sources, then only we will get constructive and destructive interference. Constructive interference means bright and destructive interference means 0. That means in constructive interference, your intensity will be 4I naught. Remember, your in constructive interference, your intensity will be 4I naught. And in destructive interference, your intensity will be 0. But the most important point here I am telling you, if these two sources are incoherent sources, then we are not going to get bright and dark fringes. We will not get the interference pattern. At every point, the intensity will be 2I naught. So whenever you take two torchlight and torchlight Let the wall be your screen. You never see interference pattern. Why? Because these two are incoherent sources, and intensity at each point will be 2 I naught. This is very important. That means to get interference pattern, the two sources must be coherent sources. Then only we are going to get constructive interference and destructive interference. For constructive interference, the intensity is equal to 4 I naught, and for destructive interference, the uh, intensity is 0. If these two are incoherent sources, then we are not going to get the interference pattern. At every point, your intensity will be 2 I naught. So the main point here is that how to create coherent sources. So in double slit experiment, the coherent sources is created from one light source, and from one light source, through the help of a pinhole, that light source is led to pass through a pinhole. That means the pinhole is made on an opaque substance. The pinhole is made on an opaque substance. From this pinhole, the light source passes through it, and again there is an opaque material with two holes, and the light passes through these two holes, and these two holes, when the light passes through it, it creates these two sources becomes coherent sources. No doubt, the light, it is incoherent sources. So when it passes, that same light, when it passes through two holes, any change in phase, because they are the same, it is the same light, any change, any abrupt change within a given time, any abrupt change in S1 source, the same abrupt change will take place in S2 source in the same time. So at every time their phase difference remains the same. So it becomes a coherent source. So see how they have created two coherent sources in double slit experiment, how they have created two coherent sources from a single source. Because we know that this single source is an incoherent source, because their phase changes abruptly with respect to time. So now, if this source is made into two sources, so in S1 and S2 there are two sources. So any abrupt change at any interval, the abrupt change in S1 and the same abrupt change will take place in S2 in the same interval. So your phase remains constant, and in this way the phase two coherent sources are created. This is the basic thing you must remember. And second is that the in single slit, this is the diffraction of the light, that is the bending of the lights. Now what they have done, that is your, this is your slit, you see, this is your slit, and this is your wave front, because we know that this is your wave front. So every point, they are the sources, secondary sources of secondary wave front. So from here, with the radius, we draw a wavelet, and from this also the same radius we draw a wavelet. So here you see these two wavelets becomes two sources, and since they are from the same wavefront, so these two wavelets, they are in same phase, and in this way they have created two two sources. In this way they have created two sources. So these are the very important thing. So remember that the two sources must be coherent sources. Only then we will get interference pattern, If the two sources are incoherent sources, then the intensity at every point will be 2 I naught. Thank you.